Today we celebrate the feast of St. James. And the gospel we just heard, I like to call it the day that James and John made the worst deal of their lives. Have you thought about it? They went to Jesus with a petition. That we can see that you're right and at your left. And then Jesus appears to give them the conditions. Are you able to drink the chalice? They say yes. And then he says, you will drink the chalice, but I can guarantee that you will get what you asked for. It's tough. But I just want to make one observation about this gospel. For me, it is a relief sometimes to see that the apostles were so clumsy. Have you noticed how clumsy the apostles are permanently? Although they spent 3 years with Jesus, they were clumsy all the time. You can see today they were clumsy in the petition they made, James and John, but you can also see that the rest are equally clumsy when they started fighting because they made that petition before they did. And the episodes of clumsiness repeat all the time in the Gospels. And I feel relieved about this. You know why? Because this reminds me that holiness does not mean you have to be perfect. Sometimes when we think about holiness and when we think about the life of the saints, we say, oh, holy means you don't make mistakes. Holy means you're immaculate. And sometimes when we read the life of the saints, we get that impression. Some saints give us the impression like they're from a different planet. But I think that the gospel is the perfect antidote against that type of literature. Because it shows us that the apostles, and all of them were saints, they were terribly clumsy. This is obviously not an excuse for us to be clumsy, but it's an clarification that being holy doesn't mean that there are no mistakes. Being holy doesn't mean that you don't make bad decisions. Being holy doesn't mean that you sometimes don't mess up. I think that being holy means that you get to experience Jesus the same way that the apostles did. And you are hungry of Jesus in the same way that the apostles were. Because I think that the most beautiful thing about the life of the apostles was the time they spent with Jesus. And listening to his teachings and just being close to him. So brothers and sisters, today that we celebrate St. James, today that we see how he got a really bad deal, today that we remind ourselves how clumsy he was, let us also remind ourselves that holiness is not about not making mistakes, but let us remind ourselves that holiness is about being passionate about Jesus and wanting to spend time with him, just like the apostles did, and falling in love with him and wanting to choose him as our first option, always as they did when they were martyrs. Let us ask for St. James for this strength and this passion about Jesus.